My connection is weak. Hi everybody. I have a very different topic to discuss today, so I hope that people are okay with that. I prepared slides and everything. I would have had them from before, but I tried to do the whole mirror thing because I ain't technically savvy to try to figure out how you be able to get this thing done with the computer. But the mirror had a lot of glare and it wasn't seeing the slides properly, so I'm trying to show you guys it can just come out backward. But yeah, today we're going to be discussing mortgages, owning a piece of this rock, the advantages, the disadvantages, the alternatives, which one people think they should do, especially given the current climate that we are in. The reason I would have brought her this topic is because the whole Bajan mentality is that you should own a piece of the rock. Everybody ideally would like to own a piece of the rock, but what was good for our parents and our grandparents may not necessarily be that great for us. There are a lot of people who have mortgages now, and if anything goes wrong, you up a crap street, because the cost of having this mortgage is so exorbitant now that it really is not as feasible as it used to be for our parents and our grandparents. So welcome, and we will get on with the show. The first thing is to make a decision as to whether you want to own property to begin with. There are some people who are very fine and comfortable with the advantages to renting. It takes up less disposable income once you find a decent place. For most people, you don't have to worry about anything. The landlord takes care of everything. You don't have any land tax, maintenance. You don't gotta worry about repairs. For some people, you just get the man some money when the month come, and that's the end of that. The obvious disadvantage to that is that no matter how many years that you're renting, you will never actually own this property. So you will have to make sure, if that this is the decision that you go with, that the additional money you save from not owning property, you take that and you invest that in something that will help take care of you in your old age. So that's one thing to think about. If you actually do make the decision that you want to own property, the first thing you will have to determine is what can you afford to purchase. Do you have the capacity to buy house and land together? Would you have to just buy the land by itself and then see if you can build on it afterwards? Would you have to go into it with a partner, in terms of not necessarily even a friend, but some person who's willing to build, say, a duplex with you, and you share that property? So those are the options that you have. Me personally, I would have purchased land with my partner, and we then built on it afterwards. That's how we were able to do it, and to share all the advantages that we have, so that people don't go around thinking that, I had the same situation as everybody else. We would have gone into an arrangement with the person we bought the land from, and we went through a lawyer and everything, but we would have offered them extra on the asking price in exchange for them accepting a monthly payment from us, so that we could avoid going through the bank. And that would have worked out really great, which, as we go down later, I will explain. The mortgage officers, they use something called an amortization schedule, and by the time they work out how much interest that you have to pay back, you pay back almost double whatever it is that you would have purchased. So offering extra on top worked out great for both us and him, because he got more money than he was looking for. He did not need the payment immediately. He was a retired person, so he was just living the sweet life, getting money from us when the month come, and we saved a ton of money from not having to go through a lending agency and having to deal with legal fees and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I will get into later. So I will get into the process of building. The first thing we had to do was go to a financial institution and find out how much we actually could borrow. because we got all excited. Yeah, boy, we buy this land and we finally finished pay off for it. We could build a Marble-ton house. No, go on to the bank and find out that for the kind of property we had in mind, it was the payment we would have to make when the month come was more than either of us made individually. So that was a bust, because neither of us were keen about going into an arrangement where one person's entire salary is going towards a mortgage payment and then the other person scrunching to pay all the rest of the bills and everything else. So we had to dress back, and the whole point of this is to help you guys to also learn from the mistakes that we made as well too. All of the highfalutin ideas that we had about property ownership and how wonderful it would be. And there are great things about property ownership, but there are also some other things that people are not aware of, and I hope that comes across so that you're prepared, so that you're not deterred, but that you're prepared if you go ahead to make this decision. So we then sat down with the very long, arduous process of creating the plan for what kind of house we would want. And we had, again, that's another advantage we had, because he has the skill to be able to draw plans, which obviously everybody would not have that ability, or may not have a friend who can do that for them, but it really helps. And it took over a year for us to come up with house plans that we actually like. And take your time, even with that final thing we liked, still had things in it that when you start seeing the walls going up that you're like, you shouldn't to do this or we shouldn't to do that. But take your time, because once you start building, that's it. It's very difficult or expensive to change plans after the fact. So if you take a year, 2 years, however long it takes, make sure that when you're done, you're happy with what you see. If you can get it done in 3D, because AutoCAD has the capability that can give you 3D projections where you can virtually walk through your house, even better. Spend the money, because once money starts shining out for a house, it is shocking the amount of money you can spend on a house, and you feel like it just disappears so quickly. So make sure you get that part done right. Have the discussion with your financial institution. Find out how much you can borrow. If you know you could only afford $1,000 a month, you sit down and you work that out. You find out how much it is that is going to give you in terms of house, and then you will work from there, so that you don't give yourself any misconceptions about what exactly it is that you can afford to buy or build. So for instance, if I'm pulling up the spreadsheet here, I'm sorry you can't see it. If you wanted to buy, say, a house for $300,000, because I think that's what the houses at Coverly cost, $300,000. Let's say, for argument's sake, that the bank is offering you 6% interest, and you have 25 years to repay. That is almost $2,000 a month you gotta be looking for. So already you'll be able, before you even start looking for house or anything like that, you already know if you want a $300,000 house, you gotta look for about $2,000. And you could play around with the numbers. Say the banks are offering some pretty low interest rates. Just dropping it by 0.5%, it comes down to be about $1,800 a month that you would have to look for. So already you could set in your mind, you know what, I can't look for enough 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that can probably cost $500,000, because I already struggling to afford $300,000. So this helps you to be able to set your sights on what it is you can actually afford. And if anybody wants to copy the amortization table so that they could play around with the numbers, just shoot me your email address by private message or in the comments, and I will send you a copy. That's absolutely no problem. And it's very easy to play around with, but if you have any difficulties, I will show you how to play around with it as well. So you have the amount of money that you have set. You drew your house plans, and the plans are within the budget for what you can afford. The next step would to be going and to do some research. Now, the other thing that we did, I used to work with free money. I used to work in external audit with Ernst & Young, and it's a blessing now. I realize I was neither here or there, but working with the law construction audits, but I know really how much of a blessing it was. You get to talk to a lot of people who are in that industry and see what happens on the inside. And the one thing they told me was that if I was going to go with a contractor, I probably can't afford the good ones, and the ones that I afford can probably rob me blind. That's just what I was told. So I was very afraid of using a contractor. And obviously, I'm an auditor. I don't know anything about building a house, but the idea of all of the money that I slave away my life for getting carried away by somebody, that was not appealing to me either. So we made the decision that we were, well, talking to all sorts of other people. We got the idea where they said if you can at least find one good worker, so it's either a good carpenter, a good mason, a good whoever, they usually have persons who also have a similar work ethic to themselves. Get the process working. At least a mason usually has the connections with everybody else that is necessary. And that is the process that we went through in terms of, we found eventually found a very good mason. Samuel Phillips is one of the best and hardest working persons I've ever had. And what I especially love about his work ethic is that if he makes a mistake, he lets you know. He don't cover it up, because at the end of the day, it's more expensive to continue on with a mistake and then discover it after and have to tear down everything than to identify it at the same time. Let we know we lose maybe a day's work to do it over and go from there. Excellent that form of communication ethics and everything that we had with him. He also put us on to really excellent carpenters, electricians, etc., who did, to me, from what I can tell, pretty good work. The other piece of research you do if you decide to go the route, I can only speak about the route I took, is that we got a copy of the building code from the Barbados National Standards Institute and read it like it is your freaking Bible, because there are lots of things in there that even workers who have really good intentions, they don't follow everything in the building code. But the building code was developed by engineers who really put their best efforts into making sure that your house is built to the best standard possible. And I would rather go with the most extreme scenario in terms of I would shell out the money rather than have my house tumble down on me afterwards. And even from reading that, there are a lot of things when you go around Barbados that you see happening on other people's houses and construction sites that you know are not in compliance with the building code. The other thing that I did was, BRC was great for that. They gave a lot of seminars on home building and construction put on by Grenville Phillips. It really opened up my eyes in terms of a lot of things that people cut corners on when you're building a house. So there is not enough research you can't do. And talking to persons who are in the industry to be able to find out what it is that you need to do to make sure it's correct, and having that mentality there that you, if you're not going with a contractor, you gotta put a lot of personal time into making sure things are going the way that they should. And hopefully you have really good project management skills, because things will get a little flustered in terms of making sure who's supposed to go when and who's supposed to do what when, and if everybody has what they're supposed to have. You sometimes got a carpenter calling you in the middle of the day to tell you that he run out of nails, and you gotta decide if you're gonna left or find somebody who could go and get this man some nails, or lose out on the rest of the day's work. And we also had an advantage where family lived next door to the property that was under construction, and where we were building was in the middle of a lot of hardware stores and stuff like that. So many times it was very easy for some person to go and just give a piece of change to get the whatever it is they needed, and then you just do the whole reimbursement afterwards to sort that out. So again, another advantage that we would have had that some people may or may not have. And the other thing is to try to see what advantages you do have. You may not have the same ones I do, but there are people that have connections that I would not have that will help make the building process easier. So the other thing we did once the construction process got started was we got very, very hands-on in the process. I am only, well, at the time I was about 85 pounds. I out there lifting cement bags, stirring concrete and mortar, filling block holes, digging dirt, all sorts of things that a lot of women feel that they can't get done. But when it's something for yourself, you figure it out and you get it done. You get your hands dirty, you break some nails. You just gotta do what it is that you gotta do. I did almost all the painting in my house myself, including the doors and stuff like that. It's just, and I ain't telling nobody to go do the technical stuff, because everything we do is things that just require a lot of manual labor. When you mix in mortar, you just gotta know how much cement to how much sand you gotta put together, and if you're doing cement, how much stone you gotta add in and mix that. Eventually we bought a mixer and brought it in from overseas, and that helped a ton, because mixing cement and mortar is back-breaking work, but it's not technically difficult. Once you know the portion that you're supposed to mix, it's really not that hard. You just keep mixing and hand it to the professional so that he will do what it is that he's supposed to do with it. And that really helped in terms of saving money in labor, because labor costs are very expensive, and also in making sure that what is supposed to be done is done. Because there are many times you will hear stories about you're supposed to block fill about every 3 holes. How many people, when you look at a construction site, you see every hole's filled? And then there are times you will hear stories about people stuffing newspaper halfway at the blocks, that when they fill it, it will look like you filled it, but it's only gone halfway, and then they take the rest of your materials to some other site. So, you know, and yes, thank you, Bertolino. We did build in stages. So you will see, we started digging the foundation, and before you know it, money disappearing. But you dig the foundation and you build up the footing, and you build up them blocks, and when the money run out, you stop. We had an idea of how much it will cost to do the foundation, so we tried to save that money, do the foundation, and stop. Pause. And then if it take another year to build up some more money to put up walls, when you get that money is when we start about putting up walls. So in total, we would have been doing the actual building process for about 6 years, to the point now where we are living in the downstairs area. But 6 years of saving, stopping, and eventually we are where we are now. So that is part of the process that we would have gone through. Some of the costs that we're not aware of, when we actually decided, we got to the point where we said the amount of money we would need for a mortgage is just a little bit more than what we're paying in rent. So it would be better at this point to go and get that mortgage and at least be living in your own space. And instead of paying rent, you'll be paying the mortgage, which to me is neither here or there who the money goes to, but at least I'm living at myself. I'm sorry, Janelle, I didn't realize that people can't hear. I hope that helps. Well, let me. Hopefully the volume is a little better. Right, so when we actually went through the mortgage process, there are so many things that people are not aware of. Some people will have to have a deposit. We did not need a deposit because we had a lot of equity in the house. So they would have used that in lieu of a deposit, and they tell them up front, I ain't even saving the deposit, because anytime we get any money, it gets spent right back on the house. You gotta look for lawyer fees, and that would be a particular percentage of the amount that you're asking for. It's based on how much you're borrowing, and you gotta pay your lawyer and the bank lawyer. If you didn't know that, you just be prepared, because the poorest person in this whole situation is the one that got shell out money for both lawyers. Most banks, I don't know any banks that ain't gonna ask you to insure the house, because if something go wrong, it gotta be covered, so that they ain't holding the bag for something that didn't just get washed up. So you gonna go look for a first set of insurance that you will have is contractors all risk insurance. It's pretty pricey. As soon as your house gets to the stage where it's enclosed, meaning that all the windows, the doors, and the roof on, you can convert to home insurance, which is a little cheaper. They're usually going to ask for the agreement of the sale, a copy, or the copy of the deed for us, which we would have had because we had the land. They would have wanted a copy of the deed. You're going to have to get a valuation report, so you're going to go pay somebody some money. And they will have the list of the persons that are okay with the valuation, with having the valuation done. And the purpose of the person who's doing the valuation is that whenever they give you money, because they give you the whole amount one time, If they give you $50,000, he can come and say if you do $50,000 worth of work. So if he come and you ain't adding up, then you can't get no more money until it reach that particular value. So that's another thing you have to bear in mind, because if you do use a contractor, you gotta make sure he give you money's worth. And you can't be no soft man, be pamby person when you're dealing with the construction either, because these men vicious and you gotta be even more vicious. If somebody doing ignorance upon your project, fire them fast. I fire ringing people, because at the end of the day, feeling sorry for people and feeling bad about telling people that they're doing crap ain't gonna help you when the mortgage officer tell you that you have not put in enough value into the property that you're building. So you have to make sure that you toughen up, and if people doing crap, get rid of them. One thing is one thing if you lose out on a couple of days worth of work, but if people doing things that you really consider doing crap, is you at the end of the day that being held accountable for this money. So you gotta be able to toughen up real fast. You gotta make sure that your land and building taxes are up to date. Make sure you pay the bill when government come wrong and send that to you. You're gonna go get a certificate of compliance from Town and Country, and the certificate of compliance is basically Town and Country saying that you host up to order. I've been waiting on mine. We submitted ours in May. This is November. We ain't get ours back yet. So because we still waiting on Town and Country to do that, all know we still paying bridging interest. So that's something else to bear in mind. You gotta make sure that your house is whatever it is that you had on your plan, your house match the plan, because the plan should have been approved by Town and Country. They said it's okay for you to build your house this way. Your house better has been built that way. So we still waiting on ours. Hopefully that gets sorted out soon. And there are other little small things they were asked for. Have a job letter, pay slip. If you are a government worker, they will more than likely want to know if you are appointed, because these is the kind of times that we're living in. Most people don't want to use a land surveyor, but again, I will say a land surveyor might seem expensive now. Is supposed to be $900 for, and that's the minimum that a typical land surveyor would charge for a job. It will go up depending on the size of the property, the complexity, and what is required. A land surveyor could save you a lot of stress in the long run. If somebody encroaching on your land, and by encroaching I mean them build a little pig pen on your land, or the land that you're proposing to buy, they got some kind of sink, say there's a sinkhole area that collects water. There are a lot of things that they could tell you, especially legally speaking, where it will save you some stress and trouble in the long run. You might be in an area where you can only say like zone 1. Zone 1 land is very tricky land. It's agricultural land. There are a lot of limitations where that is concerned. So you might want to cut corners in that area, and then later on down the road you hear a lot of noise and problems, and you wish that you had done the investment to save yourself all of that stress. If the property that you're looking to purchase has covenants, that's another thing you will have to bear in mind, because you don't know what the consequences will be if you break any of the covenants, and you have to make sure you know that in advance. I remember there was a property in French's where the land, you say the land was 300,000, you had to build a property on the land, like say $500,000, that valued at like $500,000 or more. And already I was there saying there's no way that I could afford to build a $500,000 property, because I had already done my research and know I couldn't afford the monthly payments for even a $300,000 one, furthermore to a $500,000 one. So it didn't even make no sense buying that land. So again, those are the other kind of things that you have to look out for. There was a new rule about 5 years ago where they're not letting a draftsman submit plans to Town and Country anymore. I believe it's an architect that you will have to use, and it should still be that way. So an architect is, yes, a little bit more expensive than a draftsman, But you will have to bear that in mind as well too, that even if you get somebody to draw the plan for you, at the end of the day, architect is the one who's going to have to approve it and submit it for town and country. So very quickly to wrap up, because I know I'm running out of time, I will just give you a quick peep. I know it can be backward, but this is what the amortization schedule will look like. Yeah. So you see, you got the loan amount, the percentage, and all those things you could play around with. You got the number of years, and when it is that you plan to start making this payment, and then you will see there the calculated payment in the yellow. Are you showing it properly? I don't know. Oh, right there. The calculated payment there in yellow is what you'll be working with. So as I said, I could send it to you guys and let you play around with it so that you can, if you're at this stage, you can work out what it is that you will need to do. If anybody has any questions, just drop a comment. Let me know. I will see if this is something you want to continue on with more detail next week. Or if you want to have another topic, just send the emails, send the messages, and let me know. If you have any questions, as I said, just drop them there. I hope everybody has a really great Monday and enjoy life. Enjoy your week. Have a great day.